Alright. Time for some more action, I think. It's going to be an Antigua shipyard this time around. See how this one turns out. Could, of course, be a full-on sweep for Empire.Kas here. He's looking so strong. But WhiteRa is always the comeback king, so put him in this position and then things start to get very interesting. Alright, let's see how it goes, folks. Here we go. It's my pleasure to bring you the one and only Thermaltake Esports WhiteRa. He is in the red trunks and he is playing Protoss to the north of this map, which is of course the Antigua shipyard, versus his opponent, Empire.Kas. He is in the blue trunks and he is playing Terran to the east. Some wonderful Brood War music for you in the background. Much, much better than the nonsense that Starcraft 2 has inflicted upon us, I feel. All I want for Christmas is a remastered Brood War soundtrack. You know what? It never happened. It made me sad. Oh well. We deal with what we must deal with. For a second, I'm just gonna try and clean out a couple of programs here. Somebody having a couple of frame rate issues. Need to deal with that. Weird things start to happen pretty much every single patch with XSplit, but there you go. It's a very quick scout from WhiteRa here. Extremely quick. Scouting on 10. And he should be able to find his opponent immediately. He can even get through any attempt at a wall off. Start to get some bit of annoying harassment. It's going to force an SCV or two to be pulled off the line in order to deal with it. So that in itself is a very small victory. Gives WhiteRa a very small lead. But you're going to need more than a small lead to beat Empire.Kas. I can tell you that for a fact. I think you've seen his dominance. If you haven't figured out Kas yet, he's just terrifying. Oh, Kas pulls it off at just the right time. Once again, a little bit more harassment here by WhiteRa. Can WhiteRa come back from this? And Kas is just in such amazing form at this point. It's going to be very challenging for WhiteRa to deal with it. Some straight up really powerful pushes. Very well timed. And it really is a case of, hey, look at my macro. I'm a scary mofo. You should be terrified, and honestly, I think anyone that plays Kas probably is. More nonsense here from WhiteRa, just trying to harass just a little bit more. Can he win that engagement? He can. Kas knows it, so he's forced to pull that SCV back once again, and a Marine is now out. The brave probe that could is now, unless there's some magic coming in here, is going to die. In the meantime, an expansion here from WhiteRa, a one-gate expand. Didn't want to risk going Nexus first, especially in these positions, and I can hardly blame him. Far too easy to have damage done to you there, and Kas is going to place that right down the bottom. Because hey, why not? The second scout will be required in order to find that, so got WhiteRa pretty much playing in the dark, but he does know that there is no gas taken. So he can expect a gasless expand from his opponent. Some next score being added on at the appropriate time here for WhiteRa. And this groove! This damn groove! My god! What is it? I mean, I don't even know how Zerg play guitar. They don't actually have arms. There was a post on Reddit earlier that I noted with particular mirth, being that Zerg are quite sad because they can't open their Christmas presents. That's why you spawn infested Terrans. Actually, all you really need to open your Christmas presents is just spit acidic saliva at them and the paper just melts right off. Simple as that. Whoa, Kas getting a little bit scary. He is going for a double expand here. It's a very, very greedy play here by Kas, but it's a good map to double expand quickly on, simply because of how easy it is to cover this area here. So fully scouted there by Empire.Kas. He knows what's going on in the natural. He doesn't know about the second gateway in the main, but doesn't really make too much of a difference. It's just the normal pacing here from WhiteRa. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of tech path he goes down here, because he's one game away from losing this entire series. So does he try something a little bit unusual, or does he go for straight up play? We have not seen a single Colossus deployed this entire time. Still trying to figure out what that Stargate was for in the last game. Nothing actually came out of that. I have to wonder if it was just like, hey, maybe if we can get Phoenixes out, but then he realizes, well, there's a massive force coming my way, I just can't do it. Two more barracks being added on for Empire.Kas, make that 3, in fact. Once again, he has to play catch-up here, so he's been operating only off of single racks. WhiteRa can at least head up the line and do a little bit of scouting. Doesn't have confirmation of the orbital command, but he can assume, based on the positioning of those Marines in the bunker, that there is an expansion behind that. Knowing Kas's playstyle, of course, it'd be very unusual for Kas to go for a one-base play. We saw it on Shattered Temple, and it didn't work out for him. In fact, that's the only match he's lost thus far. Plenty more barracks coming in, and a macro CC for the moment. That will be transferred over to the third once the natural has been saturated, which is getting pretty close to being. Twilight Council on the way up, plus a forge here. The gateway being added on as well, and Warp Gate will be finished fairly shortly here for WhiteRa. Now the question is, what does he decide to do? Blink Stalker's a fairly good option here, especially in these positions. You can do all sorts of harassment here if you've got visibility up this. You can jump past the rocks, you can harass the third. Marauder heavy force from Kas, as you can see, adding on 2 tech labs here. No sign of a reactor on any of these just yet. And once again, Kas has not expanded to his third. Just wants to keep saturating, and then of course he can start to transfer. He's going to take 4 gas as well. That's interesting. Could be indicative of early ghosts. He hasn't got a factory yet, so could very much be early ghosts or double upgrades. He's only got the single engineering bay down at the moment. He's actually mining from all 4 gas as well. If you're just going to be building 2 sets of Marauders, you don't need that much gas, so you have to wonder, well, where is it going to go? We'll find out very shortly. Bunker at the top of the ramp will hold this without too much of a problem. There's the third taken by WhiteRa, and I would expect Kas to actually expand fairly sharpish. As you could probably sword in the corner. Sword? That's not even a word. What am I talking about? Well, that is a terrible, terrible word. Good lord, sword. As you saw, ladies and gentlemen, Blink is coming down. WhiteRa, can you actually blink that gap? I don't think I've actually ever seen that done. Maybe you can. Admittedly, he's got no visibility, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he can or not. Whatever the case, he'll be able to harass that base when it eventually ends up coming in. You see there's been a pylon placed down there to make sure that there's no sneaky expansion down the bottom. And there we go. And as I thought it might be, it is actually for ghosts. It's an interesting move there by Kas, considering. He's going no medevacs. He's going purely Marine Marauder Ghost, which is quite a dangerous composition, especially just against pure gateway units. WhiteRa are ready to receive drops here with Blink, but there's no drops coming. It's an intriguing little mix here from Kas. He's shaken things up quite nicely. His army is the size that you would expect it to be. He is once again in the lead with army supply count, and WhiteRa sees the size of that force. He also notices no medevacs, so he might be thinking, well, what's going on here? I need to get some AoE in this his A. In fact, once again, this would be a perfect time to go for Colossus. The factory's now on the way, and it's now complete, though, so I'd expect to see medevacs following this up any moment now. WhiteRa mostly playing in the dark at this point, doesn't really have any idea what his opponent is doing, aside from that large force of Marines and Marauders at the front. He sees Combat Shield, he sees Stim, but he doesn't know about the third. He can certainly predict that the third is there by this point. Seeing a push out there from Kas in a defensive posture, but not seeing any engagement just yet. He's got to be thinking, well, what's going on here? Quick blink out there by WhiteRa's Stalker, but now he's got to think about defending that third. And his forces are currently not in position. Nukes on the way here for Kas, and Kas doing a little bit of showboating. Tell you why not, he's 2 games ahead. He can afford to do that, he can afford to lose this game. Kas now pushing forward and going to try and take the third out and split WhiteRa's force. Let's see if Kas has got enough firepower. I feel he probably does with that many units. WhiteRa now moving in, and Stalker's trying to snipe off as many units as they can. Force fields deployed to try and prevent them from going out, but I honestly don't think that Kas cares about that. He's got such a massive firing line here. Plenty of Marines taken out, some Blink Stalkers going on, and well, that's 11 probes stuck into that assimilator, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to save them. A nuke deployed as well, but I think that's going to end up landing, honestly. That Ghost is not cloaked. I'd be very surprised if it did. It's very, very close to doing so. WhiteRa is able to get out of the way, though. There we go, no damage done, and the third has been taken out. A lot of probes taken out right here by Empire.Kas, and WhiteRa taking a lot of punishment here. Can he finish this force off? Very aggressive Stim right into the center there, blinking out as much as he can, but good target fire here by Kas, and eventually this will be cleaned up, and then we can count the cost of it. 12 workers killed, a base taken out, and units lost-wise, WhiteRa has lost significantly more. So that's a bit concerning, and now finally he's actually deploying Colossus. At the moment, there's no answer to that. It's primarily a ghost force here by Kas, and the attempted nuke didn't work out either. And WhiteRa now going for the back rocks to try and bring this down. Kas doesn't have any information about that. Doesn't see it. Needs to be very, very careful with that, and he can just quickly blink in there, but he's going to be caught out of position if he's not careful. A stim could do huge damage at this point. Medevac's now finally in the air, and WhiteRa then blinks the majority of his forces out there, losing a single Stalker. Make that 2. WhiteRa now looking to try and get some damage in here, but he's not getting it. Castle's economy is steaming ahead. 77 workers and 3 rounds of mules. Things are looking good for WhiteRa. At least in terms of his army, he's starting to get things back into play. He's got his tech rolling, but economically, he is behind. So I'd be kind of worried. Kas has got a massive supply lead at this point. If Kas, of course, holds off for long enough and Colossus come into play, then absolutely, he could do damage. But even then, Kas has actually got a really heavy Marauder composition in this mix, so I don't know how effective Colossus are really going to be there. We'll see. Still no Vikings in the air. As soon as Kas spots that, he'll immediately switch over to Vikings, of course, but now he's going to try and take the gold here. He's going to be able to do that. That looked like a single Marine just moving out there, and WhiteRa wanting to deny scouting information, just take out a Marine for free, and he can do that if he decides to follow it. But honestly, I think he needs his Stalkers on the front line here. Empire.Kas is about maxed out, and that's going to be a planetary fortress in the center on the gold, and once that gold is solidified, that's pretty much it. It's very difficult to stop a Terran at that point. Kas going to defend that aggressively. 4 more barracks being added on the background here, so Kas's production is fantastic. Now Kas, I feel, smells
ready to blunder
the Colossus. I don't believe he's seen it yet, but 3 Colossi with extended thermal lance. And upgrades are looking really good for him as well. But Kas has kept up in that regard as well. Kas is just... he doesn't have any weaknesses. He's just one of these more well-rounded players. I don't see any obvious weaknesses in Kas's defense or his offense or his economy or his micro. Well, it comes down to how effective these Colossus are going to be, and the Viking count is very small, so it could work out, but Kas is not going to let himself be caught out of position. The problem is Kas is maxed out here, so unless he starts to kill some of his own SCVs, which he very well might do, he's got actually too many, in my opinion. He could very easily just use mules here. Then he's not going to have an answer to these Colossus. Charging forward goes WhiteRa. And there we go. The Colossus getting a good engagement arc. A lot of damage being done here, but still, he's got to be careful. An EMP goes off. It misses for the most part. And now this gold base is under dire threat. Extended thermal lance raining down death and destruction atop that mineral line. Planetary fortress taking a little bit of damage, but he doesn't want to go too close. Empire.Kas can now build 4 Vikings at a time, and those Colossus are on borrowed time. In the meantime, a drop here to try and deny the 4th will be taken out by WhiteRa. WhiteRa actually... oh, he could blink and take that. I think he realizes it, and oh, never mind, he's actually blinking in the other direction. Maybe that was a misblink, I'm not sure. And Kas goes for another drop, but now Kas with a big push down the center, trying to cut WhiteRa's force in half. He's in a defensive posture, though, with the Colossus at the back, so he should be okay. +3 is now complete in terms of armor, working on +3 weapon as well. Kas has kept up, no problem at all. He's on +2/+2, a very slight edge for WhiteRa here. WhiteRa's almost maxed out as well, so if he engages now, things could work out pretty well for him. But he's got to be very, very cautious. Marauder's moving in right there. Once again, that pesky drop comes in. Shields down the Colossus, but it remains alive. In the meantime, just this big army wants to try and deny that 4th, and it's going to force WhiteRa to engage, and will he get a good engagement arc? The scans we put in, and he's run right into a massive concave. Empire.Kas inflicts huge damage initially. You saw WhiteRa's supply drop like a rock there. Colossus taken out. There's the sniping going on in the Zealots as well, and things are looking not so rosy for WhiteRa. His Stalker count is very high. The Colossus will be taken out. Big damage on both sides, but Kas keeps his supply high. WhiteRa cleans this up, but another army is in the making here. Can WhiteRa actually reinforce? Does he have the trust fund required? I don't feel that he does. What can he do in the process? Taking out a couple of Vikings there, but some uncertainty from WhiteRa loses him the possibility of taking down a couple more. More Stalkers coming in, but Empire.Kas' army is already back on track. Army supply at 69 to 44. And this base is secure as well. No real harassment has happened this entire game from WhiteRa. He's not able to do so. Takes out a medevac, a nice little blink there, and WhiteRa finally secures that base for the moment and would love to stop the gold, but how do you stop the gold? What you try and do is you try and snipe off a few units here and there and do some damage, but he can't destroy the gold base, and mules can very easily reinforce here. Empire.Kas at 162 supply to WhiteRa's 121. Just a pure Stalker force against heavy Marauder. That ain't working, as I think you can very clearly see. +3 weapon is complete as well, so Kas wrecking his way through that force. WhiteRa taking more and more damage, and another base coming down the bottom for Kas. Kas looking so good, unstoppable at the moment, and WhiteRa just can't compete. Colossus count is nowhere near large enough with 8. And I do count them 8 Vikings. And that's a bunch of Zealots just kind of thrown into the pit right there. WhiteRa blinks back, but unfortunately gets caught out of position again and takes significantly more damage, and Kas looking to try and crush that 4th base now. So aggressive. So very well polished play as well. WhiteRa snipes off a couple of weak units, but he's going to have to get out of there. Guerrilla tactics ain't going to work against concussive missiles, as you can see, and that 4th is going down. WhiteRa simply cannot handle firepower of this magnitude. Empire.Kas is maxed out again. WhiteRa, 95 supply. Counterattack coming in right here. WhiteRa trying to harass the economy of Empire.Kas, but he's just got so many bases, I don't think it really matters at this point. Empire.Kas' army is huge. WhiteRa simply cannot compete with it, and EMP goes off as well, and the Zealots take a pounding in the process. 4th base is now taken out. WhiteRa with this tiny little army. GG, ladies and gentlemen. My God, is Empire.Kas a dominant force? What can I say about that? Amazingly impressive play there by Empire.Kas, and that is a 4-1 victory for the Terran player.